Have you ever met Jamie Kilstein?
So Jamie and I have a checkered history. I don't know if maybe you and I have spoken about this. I've never met Jamie, but when Jamie was social justice warrior #1,
he went hard.
He went hard
in the
on
paint.
me. Yeah. Like he just was dunking on me endlessly in ways that were totally unfair. I mean, he was just, he was working very hard to become an enemy, and then he had his epiphany. Then the social justice mob came for him over something.
Almost nothing.
Right.
Over him trying to get laid. I mean, like they were saying he was a creep or something like that. Just hitting on girls.
Yeah. Well, I missed the details there, but then he came. Then he's since sent me very friendly and apologetic emails about just I'm sorry what I did, and he wants to do a podcast. I haven't taken him up on it, but. That maybe that could be an interesting conversation.
He's sincerely apologetic.
Yeah,
he's a good guy. I mean, he and I had our own issue at one point in time over a podcast that we did versus it was. You remember when the Daniel Tosh rape controversy? Like, do you remember this?
I know who Tosh is, but I missed
rape
that.
joke. I should say rape joke. Some woman in a crowd. He was on stage. And he wasn't supposed to be there. It was at the Laugh Factory. And Dom Irrera put him on stage. And he goes, look, I don't have any material. What do you guys want to talk about? And some guy yells out, rape. And
that's always helpful.
And so, it's like some drunk in a crowd, right?
Uh-huh.
He goes, Jesus Christ. And so Daniel Tosh's take on it, he's okay, what's funny about that? Humiliation, violence. He's like berating this guy in trying to do stand-up while he's doing this. And some woman yells out, actually, there's nothing funny about rape. And he goes, wouldn't it be funny if someone just raped her?
Right.
And everybody starts laughing.
Yeah, I do remember
and
this.
So this woman wrote a giant blog about it, and she wanted him to apologize about it. And Jamie went after Daniel Tosh.
As a fellow comic.
Yes, as a fellow comic, saying that it's, and I was like, well, she's a heckler. The woman heckled, while he was trying to do stand-up. And he's like, I'm not going to support rape culture. And he's like, how the fuck is that rape culture? Like he's clearly making a joke about something she said that was very, very patronizing. Like obviously he doesn't think there's something funny about rape. He's just trying to work through this ad-lib set that he's doing with some guy who yelled out something that this whole crowd has to respond to. He can't just ignore the fact that it happened and go, how about fire trucks, folks? Why are they always red?
Yeah.
He can't do that. Yeah. He's got to deal with what this guy said. And so that's what he tosses out there, and everybody laughed, by the way.
But also isn't part of his persona just
a villain.
He takes it to the edge, right? Yeah.
Yes. He's edgy comedian. He's funny. Right. And Jamie and I had this little tit for tat about it, but he's very honest about his mistakes. Like when you talk to him, and he's got great insight because he was that guy. He was that guy that was going back and forth with people online all day and checking his mentions. Like couldn't walk down the street more than 5 steps before he'd pull out his phone and check his mentions to see how people were responding to his latest dunking or takedown or
Right.
It's a toxic thing that people are doing. It's this looking for people that are bad and looking for things that are wrong, looking for wrong speak. It's very toxic. It's toxic for the people that are doing it. It's toxic for the people that are receiving it. It's not a way that human beings would ever communicate in one-on-one. I mean, I try to communicate with people the same way online as I would if they were right in front of me. I don't always succeed, but I try. That's my goal. My goal is to try to talk to someone as if they were right in front of me. That's clearly not how everybody's handling it.
I think road rage is the best analogy for what's happening on social media.
Yeah, I've adopted that. I've adopted that way of looking at it too. But the only difference is that road rage, there's like a physiological reason for road rage.
Because you're in a dangerous situation that you're subliminally taking stock of.
You're going fast.
Right.
You're in a metal machine with a bunch of assholes that are probably looking at their phone, and everybody's going fast, and you could die at any moment if someone goes wrong. If you're on a highway like the 405 and you have 5 lanes going 70 miles an hour, it is a fucking miracle that no one dies.
Yeah.
And every day we do it. Every day everything's fine.
Yeah. Well, so let's go back to this idea of what the actual normative response would be when somebody puts their foot in their mouth or something from their past gets disclosed. I mean, the stupid an indefensible thing they did as a teenager, right?
Yeah.
Like this, you got these guys who are now having their careers destroyed for having dressed up, in blackface or in a hood for Halloween or whatever it was. I mean, I think that one politician said he's not even in the photo, but the photo was on his yearbook page, or like whatever you put on your yearbook page in high school, right? You find out this thing that no adult is going to defend, right? But what is the path back? What is the reboot that should be acceptable? Because we don't even know. It seems we don't even know what could conceivably work to rehabilitate somebody's career. And yet on this other side, we've got people who, again, are being let out of prison for murders they admit they committed, right? Or rapes they admit they committed, and they're rehabilitated. And these are stories we're supposed to feel good about, right? So we have to figure out how to square this on the left. And, I don't know. The way I've been thinking about it is that it has to be intelligible how you are different from the person who committed that thing, right? So, like if you did something that was, let's say, legit racist when you were 20, and like Mark Wahlberg is an example of this. Right. I mean, he was running around just beating people senseless, right? And for avowed racist motives, I believe, when he was a teenager.
Well, the guy lost his eye.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think that was a Vietnamese guy he attacked, but I mean, he was just doing truly indefensible things. Now, I don't know what sort of PR moment he has had since, or how he's apologized for it, but I mean, that was a very different time. I think if all that stuff was being discovered about him now, there may be no way back to
the problem is, right? With this day and age, it could be reignited.
Right.
Like, even though he's apologized for it, and even though that it's been addressed, it absolutely could get reignited.
Yeah, I mean, just me talking about it on your podcast is fucking him over, right?
It could, yeah. I mean, and also people have to recognize that there's some things you can't retroactively instill today's ideas of what constitutes racism on 1985. So if you were in high school in 1985 and you dressed up as Mr. T, right? That I don't know if that was racist back then. I never did it, but I don't know if that's racist. Like, if you had a bunch of gold chains and you made your hair black, or you made your face black and gave yourself a mohawk, and you said, "I'm Mr. T for Halloween,"
right?
And the pictures emerged today. What you did when you went door to door when you were 15 or 12 or whatever you were, knocking on people's doors, and everybody was laughing, "Oh, you're Mr. T." Nobody thought it was racist.
Yeah.
But today,
but let's take the hard case. Let's say you were racist, right? I mean, so like I had this guy, Christian Picciolini, on my podcast once, who's a ex neo-Nazi. He's just legit racist, right? He's got all the tattoos to prove it. And now there are major problems with Christian Picciolini, as I think you know. That I discovered after that podcast. But so this is not an endorsement of him. Sorry, Christian. But there's a path back. I mean, so like he's celebrated on the left.
Yes.
Like he's a former neo-Nazi, and he's I discovered him on Sarah Silverman's show on wherever that is, Hulu, and he's a darling of the left, right, and darling of MSNBC. For this redemption story. So, but what is you take someone like any of these politicians who have something in their backstory that is ugly. My feeling is all there has to be is a transparent and intelligible account of how you are now different, of how you can actually honestly look back on this thing and say, yeah, I am as embarrassed by that as you think I should be, right?
Yeah.
That's not like, that is nothing that does not represent how I view the world at all now. But there's the spirit of the time on social media, again, especially on the left, and to our total dysfunction politically, is to never accept any of that. I mean, there is no apology good enough,
right?
And or there's the most cynical possible interpretation of your apology. It's like you're just trying to. The only reason why you're apologizing is because you want to save your job,
yes.
And that, we have to figure out how to, we just need some, recovery disc that we can reboot from here, because it's just not, this is going someplace terrible. And again, to look at it through the lens narrowly politically of, over the next 2 years, it's to the massive disadvantage of the left.
It certainly is, but I don't see any way to fix that. Like with the current climate and this current attitude where people are engaging in this recreational outrage, it fits the climate. I don't know what would have to happen for people to come to some sort of a realization. It would have to happen to them, like it did to Jamie.
Right.
Like what happened with Jamie Kilstein is that they turned on him, and he's like, "Oh my God, this is awful."
Yeah.
Like what? This is not. And then he realized. I don't know what other thing could happen.
Well, the game we're playing is part of it. You and I are in a position to take risks that, even the people at the top of journalism can't. Like Megyn Kelly says one wrong thing, and it doesn't matter that she's got a $20 million contract.
Right.
She's fired.
And when you look at the thing that she said, it was just a question.
Yeah, she just didn't seem to understand how charged the phrase blackface was.
Right.
Like she's just ignorant of that piece of history or something. But so she put her foot in her mouth. She gave an apology that was just like, full-blown hostage video apology. Just like, I am so fucking sorry. You don't even know. Like, here, take a sample of my blood, and you'll just see my, test my cortisol. And
not good enough.
Not good enough. And
they let her say the apology too, which is even more crazy. They let her come back, say the apology, and then go, "Good, thanks for doing that. Get the fuck out of here."
So no one's job in that space is secure enough where they can take real risks. But you and I could do an interview with Louis C.K., right? Like, and just process his coming back into stand-up.
Yes.
And do it in a way where if people didn't like it, you just say, "Okay, fuck off," right? This is the conversation we had. And I think modeling that more and more, I think we have to take those risks, and people like us have to take those risks, and hope to break this spell by having those conversations in public.